Everybody, welcome back. It's Monday Night Live. We're going to have a conversation today with McKenna Krager, my son, who's a regular, and we're going to talk to Rafael Rosado. Did I say it right, Adon? Rosado? So we'll bring them in. Rafael's from our Apex community over on School, and he and I were having coffee this morning. We were talking real estate. He was talking about some deals he had. He had some questions, and I thought, you know what? We should bring you on the Monday Night Live. We'll talk to you for 15 minutes. We'll start off with a bang, and then hopefully, guys, the way that this works is that you guys put a bunch of questions in the chat. The more questions you ask, the better the better this goes for everybody. So we invite any kind of question you've got about real estate, whether it's Puerto Rico real estate or Orlando, Florida real estate, or really just real estate investment in general. We can answer any questions you've got, or at least we'll give you a really good try. And if I don't know the answer, I'll tell you I don't know the answer, but I've been doing it for 25, 26 years. So hopefully I'll know what you're talking about. So Adon, you want to bring everybody back in? Hey, McKenna.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me.
Hey, guys. How you doing? This is Rafael here.
Hey, Rafael.
All right. So Rafael, I was telling everybody, we bring you on for 15 minutes, answer some questions for you, and then we'll turn it into a question and answer with the rest of the people who are watching. So I would like everybody who's out there, I think we've got 5 or 6 people watching us right now. Go ahead and smash that thumbs up. We have 12 people watching. That's an incredible start. Give us 12 thumbs up, guys. That helps with the algorithm. It really does. They push it out there. And Rafael, so it was nice to get to know you this morning. And
definitely was.
Kind of talk a little shop and just I wanted to invite you to come on today, and we'll talk a little bit more because you've got great questions, and you're trying to build a real estate empire, and so you're a man after my own heart. That's what I like to do. It's what I like to talk about.
Definitely. Well, thank you for inviting me. That coffee we tried this morning was pretty good, by the way, the cinnamon coffee. So my name is Rafael. I'm a Section 8 real estate investor, moved to Puerto Rico about 2 years ago. And here looking to invest, had a couple questions. Since I've been here in Puerto Rico, I've been looking to see how I can get financing, how we can go forward with, do I have to take financing from the States and bring it here to Puerto Rico? Any answers for that?
Yeah, so we had all the same challenges, right? When I came 6.5 years ago, we didn't know how we would finance property, and so we ended up doing it through cash and through partnerships. And I sold some property back in the States as well, and then moved the money to the island, and that has been very effective for us. We're going to do some more of that right now, like in real time. I think things have just gotten like very expensive, and what I look at is, would I rather be a seller of something or be a buyer of something? And right now in Orlando, Florida, most of the time I'd rather be the seller. So I'm going to sell some things in Florida and then move the money to Puerto Rico, where most of the time I'd rather be the buyer than the seller. So maybe that could be something that you would think about doing as well, or borrowing against some properties that you have in New York and then bringing the money over here to buy some properties on the island. Could be a good idea.
What would you do to generalize that a little bit? You don't have any properties. You're trying to do your first or second deal in Puerto Rico. How would you go about financing that way?
I'd probably look to a community like we have on School, and I'd find some people that are wanting to do the same thing. And I say this every week, guys. It starts with a deal. So if you have a great deal and you have a community to go to where there are people that want to be in real estate deals, and you could bring a great deal to a community like we have in Apex, for instance, or even the Flip Flop Flipper School community, and post it there and try and find people to partner with you. I'm a big proponent of partnering with people. I believe real estate is a team sport, not just something you should do in isolation by yourself. What I see happen is people who, McKenna, don't know how to fund things. Instead of going and finding the deal or getting something under contract because they're afraid that they're not going to be able to fund it, and they're not a part of something where they can bring it to a group of people fairly easily, they pass on deals, deal after deal. I was thinking earlier, I wonder how many times someone lets a great deal slip through their hands because they don't realize that there's a whole world out there that would just love for them to bring that deal and present it to a group and then put a partnership together.
Yeah. I always like to say there's always an old person out there that has a lifetime of wealth and they want to deploy it and they want to give it to you, but you need to give them a good deal. I'm a big fan of the partnerships, the equity splits. But going back to you, Raphael, you said you had a few questions?
Yes, yes. So I have one question that I do have is, how do you approach here in this in the island how to do, let's say, owner financing or a subject to? Because with this property, I had a property in Guanabo, which a family member of mine, actually my mother-in-law, recommended the property to us, and the property was going through a bankruptcy, but the actual owner was interested in selling the property, and she was interested in doing a subject too.
Mm.
Um, but I didn't know how to go forward with that on the island. I don't know if it's different from the state to island.
So the only piece of it that I would be a little bit cautious of is the bankruptcy. You told me earlier that it was in bankruptcy. I'm not clear on what that means. I know that when we talked, you said that it sounded like had done a loan modification. So her payment was like $4,000 and she's now paying like $1,500 or $1,600 a month, and she
Yes.
owes $160,000 or something like that.
Yeah, she owed about 160,000. She wanted 200,000 for the property,
Yeah.
and the property, as we were talking, the property was possibly worth about 500,000. You know, it was
Yeah.
8 unit, 8 unit. I feel it needed about 100,000 into the property, maybe a little
Yeah.
more. But with prices being in Puerto Rico, I know the states, but I'm not too familiar with here in Puerto Rico. But I'm definitely willing to learn.
Well, renovation costs are about the same for us in Florida and in Puerto Rico. They're probably similar, maybe cheaper than they are in New York State. I don't know. I feel like things might be a little bit more expensive for you guys up in New York than they are for us in Florida or for us here in Puerto Rico. But I think this is like what I was just saying. This seems like a really good deal, and you showed me pictures of it. It's in a very good area near San Patricio. If I was trying to negotiate that, I would want to give the lady 40 grand and take
Mhm.
over her payment with the bank and just have her deed it to me. So now I don't know how that would work with the bankruptcy, and you'd have to talk to an attorney about that. But if for some reason you needed to leave it in her name for a period of time, you could set up a lease option contract with her where you gave her the 40 grand, you start making the payment to the bank, and you leave it effectively in her name unless and until you get it out of bankruptcy or until you find a new buyer or refinance. But that would have been a really good deal for someone to partner with you on. For instance, if you brought it to our group and you said, "Hey, I can buy it for 200. We need 40,000 to pay the lady, and we need another 100 grand to renovate it. So it needs 150,000. But at the end of the day, you're going to have 300 in it, and it's worth $500,000. Plus, it should cash flow." That's a heck of a deal. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a heck
Definitely
of a
something
deal.
people would partner with you on. So
And it was a good looking house too. I mean, I don't know if you have pictures handy or if we'd be able to pull them up or not. But how could he send us pictures?
I can.
Can you still get that deal, do you think? I mean, I know you said maybe the son solved the problem. Is that
I'm
something
definitely.
that you think
We're
you could still
definitely
get?
looking. We're definitely looking into it because we just recontacted them today after our meeting.
Yeah.
She's friends with the family. She's 78. She doesn't want to deal with the property. And as she mentioned to us that her son and her daughter really didn't want the property. They live in, I believe they live in Florida, and they're not real estate investors. They're not into that. So there's a possibility. There's definitely a possibility. We just have to, do a little chit chat and see what's
Well,
going on.
that's a couple things that I mean, so it sounds like they've solved the problem. Maybe the bankruptcy will go away fairly soon. And if you can take over that mortgage, that's a great deal. I mean, That's definitely something. What I think is nice about like the Apex community, where we've got a community of real estate investors who want to do deals together. I'm certain that if you brought that to the table and have it on a silver platter that said, "Hey guys, I'd like to partnership with either Robbie, McKenna, Don, or anyone else in the community," and our desire is to do deals together, right? Like we want to figure out how to do that inside of that community. So I
On that
think
I
that would
definitely would
work.
love to partner. I definitely
Yeah.
would love to partner with you guys and the people in the community. That's for
Awesome.
sure.
Yeah,
Well,
and
if the numbers
that's
you're
what it's
saying are
there
true,
for.
that's pretty exciting. On that deal, is it possible? Is it already rented? Like, couldn't you buy it and have
One
renters in there immediately?
one unit is rented,
Okay.
and everything else is vacant, and she lives on the top floor. And and by the way, there's an elevator in the middle of the house, which is cool. It's not completed. So that was one thing that me and my wife were looking at it, and we were trying to figure out, like, okay, do we remove this? How do we go forward with this? I
Yeah,
never
complete the
experienced
elevator.
an
Is it a
elevator in the
two-story house
house.
or 3-story?
It's a two-story. It's a
So you don't
two-story.
really need an elevator
You
necessarily.
really, you really don't need it. You definitely don't
But
need
it
it.
is cool.
But it is cool. That's for sure. So, I got here some questions on my paper. So I was trying to mention, how do you comp some unknown properties in Puerto Rico in unfamiliar spots?
Yeah, Don's probably best to answer that, but he doesn't have a microphone. What we do, what I like to do is ask realtors in the neighborhood to run a CMA, a comparative market analysis. You can also use what's the app? The Red Atlas. Red Atlas is the app that we've been recommending to people to get data. So they've got recent sold comps there. It is a paid service. They're not sponsoring me, although I might have to hit them up for a sponsorship. Find It PR is another one that you can use. That one's free. And then there's something called Regrid that'll tell you what people paid for something. REGRID, Regrid. And Regrid is like the crime. It tells you who owns it, what they paid for it, when they bought it. Doesn't really give you comps, but it does give you a lot of information. But Find It PR and Red Atlas will both kind of give you some comps. What we do in Puerto Rico, because data is so difficult, I've got a handful of realtors that I've partnered with over the years, and I call upon them to run a CMA, a comparative market analysis. And like I told you earlier, on something like the eightplex, buying it at 200, I would just back into the valuation through what the cash flow is. So I would take, what do I think the rents are going to be, and how much money am I going to be into it, and then figure out a cap rate and figure out if I think it's a good enough deal or not. I like those multifamily deals because then if I'm getting a good enough return on my money, I really don't care if it's ever sold, if something is ever sold for $1 million or not. And if I'm going to be all in for $300,000 and I can make a 25% return, then hell, it's a great deal. You don't have to
matter.
You don't have to go any further than that,
Definite. It's like earlier we were talking about. It's like I mentioned, I invested in Rochester, New York, and the properties there years ago. I was purchasing them for 15,000 and then renting them out for 900. So, and within a year, you're getting back your money that you invested into the property. But definitely interested in doing the same thing in Puerto Rico. Yeah.
Obviously, great deals.
So
and now what are those houses in Rochester worth? So you still own them 10 years later?
150, 180. They appreciated a lot. I don't dare to sell them because of capital gains tax.
Yep.
But they have increased dramatically. Rents are now 2,000, 1,500, 1,600, depending on the amount of units. So is that a situation
where maybe you could borrow against them at a low level, 50 cents on the dollar or something to get yourself a war chest to come and invest here?
Yeah, it's definitely an option. I was running into a little bit of an issue with the DSCR loans. And one of the issues that it was uncomfortable for me was that the property was giving me full cash flow, and then if I took this loan out, my pretty much my payments would have been 1,300. My house rents for 15, and I'm like, should I just sell this instead of holding this monthly payment for 30 years and
Yeah.
just hope in the possibility of the rents continue to increase in the next 10 years, I guess.
Well, I guess it depends on how much money you're borrowing out. Are you pulling all the equity out, or you
It was about
only
100,000, about
about
100,000.
100,000? So you're still leaving yourself with some equity, and you'd
Yeah.
have hopefully some cash flow, but you'd have the money to come here. I mean, I really think that's like a personal decision. Like, so you wouldn't have the capital gain problem if you borrowed the money, obviously, and then you'd have somebody else paying down your mortgage over the next 30 years. So that's nice. And you'd have some cash to do the business you've already done there before. You said you're a Section 8 landlord, and Section 8 works really well on the island.
Definite.
But you lose your cash flow, so you got to go and you got to get new business that's going to replace that, so you can continue to pay your bills.
Exactly. So I was considering the 1031 exchange.
Sure.
It's an
You can do the
option, but I don't
1031
know.
exchange from state to state, but you can't do it to Puerto Rico. Sorry, you
Oh, you can't.
you
Oh, wow.
cannot.
It's a
No,
bummer.
you could sell and take your capital gain and invest it into a self-directed opportunity zone, because the island is 98% an opportunity zone or 96% an opportunity zone. That's a little tricky. I don't know. If I was worried about the capital gains, maybe I'd probably just borrow the money out. And if you can borrow the money out and not pay a capital gain, that's not bad at all. So
Yeah, that might be a better bet. So with the questions here,
yeah, go ahead.
I guess you answered it already. How do you remove the attachment to a property? And
The attachment.
because I feel an attachment to the comfortability of the property producing an income, and I know sometimes that can hold you down from growth.
Yeah.
So that's something that I personally struggle
maybe
with.
borrow on one or two. I mean, you have 3 or 4, so maybe only borrow on 1 or 2, just so you're super safe, and keep some cash flow, and then immediately invest in something that's going to cash flow here. So when we first came to the island, we had no cash flow, right? We started a brand new business in Puerto Rico. We had a business in Florida that cash flowed, that was paying for life, and that enabled us to be able to come here. And you're sort of doing the same thing. You're here now. You want to buy more real estate. So do you partner with people and leave what you've got back in the States just running on autopilot? That's one way to go. And then you give up a lot of equity here to do that. And that's what we did, by the way. We partnered with people to come in. We would find a great deal like you talked about earlier, and I would talk to investors, and they would come alongside of us. They'd put up the money, we'd do all the work, and we'd share the profit. So that's one way to go. The other way to go would be to borrow against what you've got and lose some cash flow, but bring the money, and then you maintain control of what you're buying here. And you could do a combination. You could do the last way, I guess, you could sell everything and move all of the money here. That one I didn't do. We're considering selling most of what we got in Florida now, just because it's gotten so expensive, and we've already been here for 6.5 years, and it's going well for us. So I will tell you this: the business you want to do here with the Section 8, it works really, really well. We've been there and done that, and we came kind of with the same kind of glasses that you have, right? Like we were successful with it in the States. Will it work in Puerto Rico? And we were able to get it off the ground and get it running, and you can as well.
Awesome. I appreciate the encouragement and the advice.
Yeah. So, all right. So we're gonna invite you to stand by and hang out, and we're gonna answer other people's questions. I can't see that what the questions are, but I know that we've got some people asking questions. So, you want to ask a question, Adon or McKenna?
Sure, we'll pull up some people now.
And Raphael, thanks. And if you want to just hang out with us and be part of the conversation, you can do that. You can either stay on there with your pretty face, or we can let you go. Oh, Adon let you go. So
I would like to say, guys, if you want to come on the show, we're running a contest, I guess, a competition in our free school community. If you get the most amount of points in a week, you get points from getting likes, from commenting on things, from interacting in the community. If you get the most amount of points in a week, we'll bring you onto the show next week. So if you're jealous and you want to come on, we'd love to talk to you. Get in there and start posting. We've got a question here from Paul. Just curious on who you guys use or how you get financing for properties in Puerto Rico. I have a short-term rental I'm looking at doing and would love to see your strategy or who you use.
Yeah. So if it's just a single property, like if it's let's say it's a condominium on the beach or something, and you can go get a regular loan, that's the best way that you can finance something on the island of Puerto Rico. So whether that be a conventional loan or an FHA loan or a VA, any of those kind of in the box loans, they work here on the island. Anything that you think of that's outside of the box, like if it's multi-units, especially more than 4, it becomes significantly more difficult to borrow money against. So doesn't mean that it's absolutely impossible. We're starting to see some things where people are getting loans, commercial loans. But really for the last 6.5 years, from the day we got here until like last week, nobody was getting those kind of loans. We're just now starting to see that it's even possible. And I again, if you're buying a one-off condo, a one-off house, and you can just go get a traditional bank loan, those things work great. If it's a little bit outside of the box, then you need to start looking at seller financing or partnering with people who have money, that kind of stuff.
Yep. There's hard money lenders, private money lenders out there, but I think partnering is the simplest and the best way to go. Rena says, I would like to ask about business credit and how it can be used, for example, furniture for Airbnb, materials for flipping. I heard we can use business credit without personal guarantees.
Yeah, so I think that's true. We use for oftentimes when we're starting a new Airbnb, we'll put it in its own LLC, and then we'll get a couple of credit cards attached to that, whether that's Home Depot or an American Express card. Some of them you don't have to sign personally for. Some of them you do have to sign personally for. But either way, we use them all the time. So that's our preferred way to kind of furnish a Airbnb apartment. Oftentimes we're running that credit card at the Home Depot up and down every month. So Don loves to come get that credit card and go shopping for materials and stuff. But certainly business credit is available, just like it is in the States. And please take advantage of that, guys. Do it responsibly. Be careful with that. Don't hang a noose around your neck and get yourself in trouble, because debt can be dangerous. But if you're able to buy some things and get your place up and running and cash flowing and pay it off as you go, that's certainly responsible, and that makes sense.
Yeah, I got an Amex in my first business, no experience. They gave me 30 grand immediately. It was shocking, to be honest. That one,
Amex is definitely the most friendly. I think that is probably our preferred one. We have Amex cards for several businesses on the island as we start, especially with Airbnbs. So when we get to the point where we're going to furnish stuff, we'll just open up a new Amex card and go run it up and then pay it off with cash flow.
Yep. How would you find, this is from Rena, same viewer. Thanks for being here. How would you find the info for abandoned properties so you can contact the owner and offer solutions? That is the $1 million question, Rena. If you could solve that, and people do, and we'll talk about it, but you can have a fortune if you get good at this process. I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, we get that question almost every week, right? There are so many abandoned houses, and the inheritance laws here on the island are really not good for people to be able to sell those properties. And that's why in any neighborhood that you go in, whether it's affluent or poor or anything in between, you always have nice houses, and you always have some houses that have been left and forgotten and abandoned. And finding those heirs, finding the people who own those properties and getting them to agree to sell, it's not easy. We use there's a man named Juan Perlon who's a part of the school community, who's an expert at it. And we have conversations about this all the time. But what do you do? Go talk to the neighbors is one of the ways. That Regrid app that I talked about earlier is a great app for you to get, because it'll give you a start. Basically what I'm saying is it's a hard road to hoe. And like, if you have one house in a neighborhood that you want to find the people and buy that house, man, I don't love that business model. I wouldn't choose to go that way. I mean, that's a lot of work for potentially never getting a deal. But that's what you could do. Go talk to neighbors. You could pull up the Regrid app and start doing the traditional, hire a private detective to find them.
Yep.
There's not a
Go
great
on
way. This is
Facebook.
Puerto Rico. It's tough. And
Yeah.
and a lot of times they're gone. I mean, they're spread out all over the US, and there's dozens of them, and really, really difficult. But if you can do it, like McKenna said, when you're a real estate investor and you solve big problems, you get to make big money. Juan Perlon recently found the heirs to a property. He brought it to me. We closed on it for $115,000. And 3 weeks later, he sold it to another real estate investor for $200,000. So he solved that problem. And Juan made a big, big fee, a big wholesale fee. I put up the money. I made a little bit of money. Juan made the lion's share of it because he did. I think he worked on that deal for 6 months to a year before he got it.
Yeah.
So if you can solve the problem, you get to make a lot of money.
Yes. And it's tough, and there's not a lot of people that do it. Noel says, what would be an example of a partnership deal? How many? What do you mean by how many? Could you let us know in the comments? And then terms. If it's how many partnership deals have we done? We've done a lot.
Yeah. So since I've come to Puerto Rico, I've told people we expand our business through partnerships. And what we've done ever since day one when we got here, we've let the money get half of the deal and the work get half of the deal. So when I showed up and we were buying single family houses to flip, I would have somebody put up the purchase price, and I would have them put up the amount of money we expected there to be for the renovation. And we would find it, we would renovate it, and we would find the buyer for it. At the end of the day, the person who put up the money would get all of their money back, and then we would split the profit. And so we've done, I don't know how many of those, a ton, dozens and dozens, maybe even more than 100.
And
It's too bad you don't have a
clarified, how
microphone.
many partners in a partnership can you do?
You know, I like to do one person with the money for one deal, but we've done as many as a few. If you start to get outside of more than one or two, and especially if you're getting outside of like putting together syndications and things like that, it becomes something that's a lot more complicated, and you need to pay an attorney to set that up, those syndications. We try to stay away from that. I like to do business with people that I have known for a while. That's why I like starting communities like the YouTube community, or like we've got on School, so that if we can get to know people, we can partner with people. And we've had as many as, maybe 4 or 5 people in one deal, but typically we like to have 1 or 2 people who've got the money, one person who's doing the work, and a 50-50 split.
Norma's interested in investing in Florida. Norma, what kind of investing do you want to do?
Which
Wholesale, fix and flip, long-term rentals, Airbnb? Let us know. And then going down, Michael K. He's in San Juan. I have a deal that will cost me $450,000, remodeling 3,000 square feet in Old San Juan. Love Old San Juan. Will cash flow Airbnb $70,000, estimated 50% vacancy. I bet you can beat those numbers. Would you do it? 15% cash on cash return. Michael, I'm going to assume that you have $450,000 in the bank. I would maybe do it if I had $450,000 in the bank. If I had to go borrow money or I needed equity partners, I'm probably not going to do that for 15%, because you have to figure out what's the cost of your capital. What is it going to cost you to go get a loan? That's probably most of the profit. Or if you're giving up half the deal, the 15% goes down to 7%. And then I'd rather just have the 450,000 in the stock market, which we're not stock market guys, but
I'll look at it a little different. I think that I heard the math. It's $450,000 purchase, and it's 3,000 square feet. Is that what he said?
Yeah, I think remodels.
That's $150 a square foot that he's purchasing it at. If he's truly in Old San Juan, that's close to a no-brainer. Like
he says, he owns the property from many years ago, but it needs major renovations to make it habitable.
I think that it's worth. Look, Old San Juan right now is worth $500, $600, $700, $800 a square foot fixed up. So if you've got a 3,000 square foot property and you have to put $450,000 in it to make it up to its highest and best use, that's only $150 a square foot. You're going to have a property that's worth at that point probably, I think I mean like a minimum $500 a square foot. So that would have you at a $1.5 million valuation on that building. On the low end, I think that's highly, highly attractive.
Would
Also,
you
if you
renovate
just wanted to
for-
sell it, you could probably sell it easy too. Everybody loves Old San Juan. Everybody but me. I've never bought anything down there. But
would you keep it as an
'cause I don't
Airbnb or would you sell it?
I don't know. I mean, do you want to be in the Airbnb business, or do you just want to make $1 million?
I want to make $1 million.
That's the question that I would ask, right? It'd be like, hey, do I want to be in the Airbnb business making $100,000 a year, or do I want to make $1 million now?
Yeah,
It's a good problem to have. If you bought that thing a while ago, you're in really good shape, I would guess. So
yeah. And if you don't have the money, Michael, that's something where if you were renovating to flip, going to get the hard money, going to get the partnership, that's out there. People would do that deal. Maybe less so on a 15% Airbnb deal. Antoine, I'm a real estate broker wanting to level up. What should I do and why? Wholesaling or flipping? That is another $1 million question.
well, you're on a Q&A with a value add real estate investor, and so I have done wholesaling. We've done the value add stuff. I lean towards the value add stuff. There's more money in it. You can make chunks of money if you're in a position to do it, to buy the deal of a lifetime and fix it up and then sell it for top dollar. I really like that business model, or I especially like the same business model, only keeping it as a rental property if you can do it. So I think that's a comfort thing, right? Like, so how fast do you need to make money? Because if you've got to get in and out really fast and you don't have much money to start with, wholesaling is a wonderful way to start. But if you can somehow start as a flipper, you can do that even without any money. So those are kind of questions. It's like, it's good or good, right? You don't have a bad option. So I think it's more along the lines of what are you comfortable with, and we've done it all. We still do. Like McKenna and I are wholesaling a property in Florida right now. Like as we speak, we're under contract on a house, and we're going to do a double closing with another real estate investor. And
speaking of, we need to write that contract up.
And we're also under contract on another one where we're going to do the buy, fix, and sell. So just kind of depends on the deal. Maybe go deal by deal.
If I was a real estate broker, and I'll preface this too, if I was a real estate broker that was making money, because there's a lot of them that don't, but I'm going to assume you are, I would keep doing that, but I would change my focus from growing that business to now I'm looking at every deal that's coming on the MLS. I'm trying to get private off-market listings. And then I would just be on the hunt for, some hoarder wants me to list their house. Maybe I can just buy it from them directly, or something like that, where you're exposed to so much real estate as a successful broker. You're going to be positioned to get a good deal, and you're going to see everything that comes on the MLS if you're doing it right. Blake, can you talk more about Section 8 in Puerto Rico? For example, if you find a deal that is already approved and operating as Section 8, does it become more attractive?
Well, it's not less attractive, that's for sure. We've done Section 8 when we first started on the island. We would renovate things and rent them Section 8, and we did that almost exclusively for a couple of years. And then what happened was the market rents kind of eclipsed what you could get with Section 8, and so we moved out of Section 8 and into the just regular market rents, but long-term housing for working class homes, and we were getting better rent rates, and now Section 8 just raised their rates again. So we're looking at Section 8 again. Do I like to buy properties that are already rented or ready to rent? If you're getting a great deal, I really love that. But because we're value add real estate investors, most of the time we're buying the stuff that doesn't already have renters in it or isn't already in good shape, and we're doing the lift. We're forcing the value or forcing the equity by renovating it. That's just what we've chosen to do, right? I know lots of people that don't do that. They don't like to do the renovations, and they're probably smarter than me, honestly. But
Well, it's a
our
different business
chosen
model.
path is usually the hard path.
Well, it's, you're going out and raising money, but you're giving away half of the equity. And so for order that to work, you need to go and make 40% on these
Yeah.
deals. Where
Yeah,
if you
I have
had,
to have a big return in order for it to be
yeah,
sexy enough for someone to want to give me the money, for sure.
and for you to make money too.
And for me to make money. Yeah.
But if you had 5 million in the bank and you're just trying to be in real estate, maybe it's not a bad deal to go buy some cash flowing rentals that are going to appreciate, and they're cash flowing at 10%, 11%. You're making money and you're get invested in real estate, and it's easy. So it's
Yep.
just how much time versus how much money do you have? And then Jesus says, what app?
What app?
What app? I prefer onion rings. What kind of appetizers do you like?
Oh. Red Atlas is the apps we were talking about for comps earlier. It's a paid site, Red Atlas. Yep. The other one is what was the other one, Adon? Find It PR. That's a free app where I think you can look at comps. We do have Zillow on the island, but it doesn't work really well for comps. It does let you know what's for sale in some areas, but
yeah, doesn't have great data.
And unfortunately, we don't have a great MLS system. So the way McKenna and I run comps back in Florida is we look at sold comps straight from the MLS.
Yeah.
Or Zillow would even have them. Yeah. Or Realtor.com would have them. Here on the island, they're just behind the times, and it's starting to catch up. And hopefully over the next couple of years, it'll become more robust. But so far, Red Atlas is doing a pretty good job of it. So I recommend them. If you get the Red Atlas thing, tell them Robbie and Adon sent you. Please. And I'm going to have him in, and I'm doing an interview with him. I'm going to ask him for a QR code or something, because we talk about Red Atlas every week.
Rena says, would you consider commercial rentals like for a spa or medical office? So you want to own the building and then rent to those businesses?
And the answer is, yeah, I would definitely consider that. We have some commercial space right now, and we're looking for tenants. So if somebody, actually, this is a good segue for us. If somebody out there in this community knows someone who wants commercial space in Puerto Rico, I have 3 different buildings that have really nice commercial spaces. One of them is on Juan Ponce de Leon. It's 23,000 square feet. One of them is in Canovanas. It's about 6,000 or 7,000 square feet. And we have another 7,000 or 8,000 square feet near Sagrado Corazon, near the university, which is basically Santurce. So we would love to find those kind of tenants and keep those and just be landlords, or even sell to people who want to have those kind of businesses.
Yeah. We're getting those, or you're getting those buildings to basically a white box where they have 4 walls that are all painted white. And then we want to find tenants that are going to come in and do a build out of whatever facility they need.
That's right.
Kind of, and some people do it differently, where they'll build out for the people. And we would consider that as long as we had someone that was ready to go and signed a lease. Rena says, I'm in school.
Deposit.
Yep, exactly. Rena's in school, and it's being helpful to me to break the ice and communicate with others. Well, thanks for being there. And
good job. That's what it's for, right? We invite people to come and network and talk about deals. Earlier we had some questions about deal structure, and last week we did inside of the Apex school group, we did a masterclass on deal structure. And Adon was telling me, talk about the thing on school. And I was like, what are you talking about? But he finally sent up a smoke screen, and I understand what he's talking about now. We just did this masterclass last week on deal structure. So if anybody wants to see that, come and join us on the Apex group in school. And it's part of the library. We have courses in there, and we've got these masterclasses that we do each week. And that one was one that we just did.
Yeah, the masterclasses are similar to this, but we spend about 45 minutes going pretty into detail on things that we've done. We did seller financing, we did fix and flip, we did how to fund a deal. and then we do a Q&A where we're bringing people up, and the questions get pretty detailed. You're coming on screen, and it's pretty involved. So we'd love to see you guys there. Michael,
And it's just another place to network and to be in a community of people that want to do deals, right? Like, so that what we're building, whether it's the free community or the paid community, in both cases, we're trying to facilitate groups of people coming together to do deals together, or even individuals. And we just, our heart is to help you guys become real estate investors. We want to see more deals being done. We want to be a part of more deals if we can be, but we want to facilitate people buying real estate.
Yeah. Going back to Michael, this is the guy with the old San Juan building. He owns the property, but renovations would be $150 per square foot. So that's the $450,000.
Yep.
It's a warehouse on top of a commercial property. The warehouse will be made into apartments. So you have a warehouse in Old San Juan. What part of Old San Juan? Is it in that neighborhood, Dad, what was that street you almost bought?
Yeah, so that's what I was saying. That where you're talking about is Puerta de Tierra.
Yeah.
That's not really Old San Juan. It's still worth a lot more than $150 a square foot. But if it's actual Old San Juan, like where the cruise ships come in and where all the restaurants are and near the forts, man, I think that I was really light. Like $500 a square foot is probably like bottom of the barrel. Like between $550 and even $1,000 a square foot. If you turned your warehouse into 2 or 3 different apartments, they could easily be worth $600, $700, $800 a square foot. Very, very attractive real estate down there.
And
you're in great shape if you own a 3,000 square foot warehouse in Old San Juan. I love it. You're gonna kill it. Whatever you decide to do.
Tierra, right down the street, it's not as exciting. And if you have a commercial property with a warehouse, I'm not exactly sure where that is.
Yeah, and McKenna, I'd still be excited about Puerta de Tierra. Puerta de Tierra is blowing up. Now it's not $700 a square foot, but for sure $300 to $500 a square foot for renovated stuff, even in Puerta de Tierra.
Michael, if you wanted to go into the Flip Flop Flipper School community and post some photos, and maybe we can get more details on what you have, and we'd love to look at it. That's the kind of deal that we get excited to talk about.
Yeah,
Turner,
I would say if I wasn't flying out tomorrow night, I'd try and hook up with you for coffee and go see your property. But it really sounds exciting. Good job buying that.
Turner, where did you guys start your real estate journey? I'll let you go first.
I started in Orlando, Florida, probably 26 years ago. It's pretty close to 26 years ago.
How'd you get started? What happened?
I've told this story a bunch of times, but I was a bad employee and I quit a job and went into real estate investing, kind of jumped both feet in without thinking about it too much. And didn't do any of this kind of Q&A stuff, no education, did everything the really hard way. And thank God it worked out. And I say all the time, real estate investing has provided a great life for me. And I believe that it can for anybody who's out here. If you're thinking about it, for me, it was an easy decision. I was a bad employee. I couldn't keep that job anyway. So I had basically either quit the job or was quitting the job at the same time that I was buying real estate. And I was risking everything, but I also didn't have much. So it was an easy thing to risk everything back then.
I got started working for my father right here. I flew down to Puerto Rico after school, and I guess I'd been working for you in high school as well, but I got lucky. I was born into it. And then when I really started on my own, though,
you're the one who was born with that silver spoon in his mouth, huh?
Yeah.
Damn it, man. I talk about you like you don't even exist, and there you are. Because most of us aren't born into it, right? No. So you were very fortunate.
No, I've had 10 years of real estate experience at 26 years old, and it's it's pretty tough to do that.
Yeah, it's in your blood.
It's in my blood. But when I started my own real business, I first did wholesaling. I really liked doing wholesaling to get into because I needed very little money. I was working with a team that taught me how to do it, where I knew the real estate side of it. I didn't know the lead generation. I didn't know the sales aspect of it. So I got really good at those two things with the team. And then as I was doing more wholesale deals, I just started to find houses that I wanted to buy. And I just started taking them down myself, where if I found a deal that I really liked, I would just buy it. And then I'd flip it.
And I want to say, I'll brag about my son a little bit. Even though you were born into it, I didn't give you a whole bunch of money to go buy real estate with. In fact, you went out and bought your own real estate completely separate from me. You guys, you and your friends started a business and did it 100% on your own. I mean, you certainly had a leg up. You had somebody you could talk to about things, but it wasn't
Sure.
like I gave you a small $1 million loan like Donald Trump or anything.
No,
I
for
didn't
me,
have it, but
it was kind of a point
that's
of
not the way
pride.
we roll, right?
I wanted to do it independently, because I knew if I just kept doing more deals with you, yeah, I would do great and I would do well. But internally, I needed to go do it without your support. So now I can do deals with you, and I feel great about it because I have this track record of he was already doing deals, so he doesn't need me. But now I can partner with you and feel good about it.
You've brought me some great deals that you've invited me in on, and then I've brought you in on deals because you're in Orlando, and I know that you're capable of doing them. Anyways, we don't need to talk about that anyways. But I'm proud of you, McKenna. Good job.
I appreciate it. Thanks, guys. Going up, we've got Love Investing in Section 8 and VA from Gene. Yep.
Me too.
The VA loan is probably the best loan ever. If you can get the VA loan, you can get some amazing deals for a rental or for an Airbnb. I mean, it's just amazing.
But you're only allowed one VA loan at a time, right? Like you can get a VA loan, you're supposed to live in it, then you could turn it into a rental or a Airbnb or something, but you can't go stack them up loan after loan after loan, I don't think.
I thought it was like FHA, where you could get a new first-time home buyer loan every couple years. I'm not sure, though.
I'm not an expert on that. I don't know.
Yeah, a mortgage broker would know, though. If you qualify for VA, there's people that specialize in working just with you. Rita, my sister owns a beauty salon and paid $1,000 for a rental, and it's called my attention about owning a space for somebody that needs commercial spaces. I really like commercial tenants, Rena. I think the triple net lease is just, to me, the best lease you could possibly have, where you're getting paid directly and the tenant takes care of everything, as opposed to a residential or an Airbnb. Your burden is much higher. So I love the commercial triple net lease kind of option that's available. And you can't do a triple net lease in residential. It just doesn't work.
You can do it as a lease option where you make someone quasi owner. Anyways, but you're right. You typically find the triple net stuff in commercial leasing.
Yeah. Michael says it's old San Juan warehouse. It's on San Francisco Street. Commercial property isn't rented to a jeweler, or is rented to a jeweler on San Francisco.
I mean, that sounds like that's the heart of Old San Juan.
Yeah.
If you got a jeweler downstairs, you're probably right in Retail Row, and yeah, that's really, really good. That's a good spot to own something. So yeah, you want a partner on that? Let me know.
Yeah, Michael, let's talk after the show. Absolutely.
I do know renovations down there can be tricky. You're gonna have to deal with the historical society. Yeah, it's right in the heart. Don just pulled it up on the map. You're right in the heart of Old San Juan. I mean, it doesn't really get much better. Dorado Beach East maybe is better, but that's really the high rent district.
Yeah.
And if you've owned it for a long time, you're crushing it.
If you're in the free community or the paid, either one, send us a DM. Let's talk more after the show. Rena, wholesaling is getting so difficult with all the rules and regulations nowadays, but I want to give it a try. What rules and regulations? I'm not too sure what you mean by that.
Well, I will tell you that different states have been passing laws that are basically banning wholesaling. So, which leads me to believe that becoming, a lot of wholesalers are probably going to move into becoming house flippers instead of wholesalers, or you'll see more wholesale to flip type partnerships where, like TJ has done with us, McKenna, where a wholesaler will just start partnering with people. They'll buy it together, they'll renovate it, and they'll flip it. I think that that's going to be the trend for the next few years, unless some of these rules get pulled back. But what's happening in the blue states is that they're trying to make wholesaling outlaw. They're trying to wreck it. And guys, I'm not super big on the wholesaling. Like I do that business, but it's not my go-to business. So I'm not completely biased to this, but I do think that they're unnecessarily trying to wreck something that's working. They're also doing it, by the way, with the MLS, with the way they're messing with the commissions. They're taking things that are tried and true and that have worked for a long time and putting regulation on it and fucking things up just like only a government can.
The new regulations for the MLS went into effect today, at least for Stellar. So
really,
our house on Kingswood no longer offers commission. How
oh
bizarre
wow.
is that?
So and so something that's worked for years, where you know what the commission is on both sides, and now they've changed it. We'll see what happens, but it's going to be different moving forward for sure.
Yes. And with change,
and I don't know if it's different,
guys.
better, or different, worse. I actually think for guys like McKenna and I, it's different, better. Why? Because we're real estate investors and we can run our own comps. And I could now find a good buyer's agent and just pay him to go and find me great deals, and he won't have lots of other options. So I think it could be better for real estate investors, but it's worse for just about every other person involved in the real estate transaction.
Yeah, I think
that's my opinion.
If you're trying to do your first home, I don't know that you can get a realtor anymore. Like if you're I have a good friend, he's a missionary. They're buying their first home and they're on a tight budget. If they had to pay me out of pocket and I'm working with them, I would do it for free because he's my groomsman. But if he had to go pay someone $7,000, that would be a deal breaker for him. He would not be able to buy the home that he's buying. Hannah says, what's the formula for deciding if the benefit for purchasing a multi-unit property, commercial or residential, outweighs the risk of not renting all the units?
What's the form? So you're talking about what your risk tolerance is there, I think, Hannah, and that is there a formula for that?
I think it's kind of a math question too, of you can assume vacancy. So let's say you are getting a property with 10 units. You can assume that 8 of them will always be rented and 2 will always be vacant, and run your numbers that way. And if the math still works where there's that caked in vacancy, then you have the upshot potential. But when you're doing a multifamily, you will have turnover. You're going to have months where one tenant leaves and another one comes in. So that's how I would do that. I don't know what the exact number is on.
We run those numbers on a 10% vacancy. So if the math works for us at 90% occupied, and guys, we live that out, right? Like, so we've got small multifamilies all across the island of Puerto Rico, and we keep our rental portfolio at about 95% occupied. So, and that's it's a small portfolio. Let's call it 70 doors. But that's what's worked for us. Run the math on a 10% vacancy. If you've got real anxiety over it, run the math on a 20% vacancy so that you've got more spread in it, more fluff, and that's how you would do that. But I generally think that I'm going to be able to keep things rented, and we're going to have the nicest thing on the block. Also, we're in the habit of buying stuff that's completely vacant and doing a massive renovation and making it go from the worst place in the neighborhood to the best place in the neighborhood, so that when we're competing for renters, we're really the one that everybody wants to live in because we've got the nicest place in the neighborhood. So when I'm factoring in that 10% vacancy, I'm pretty certain of that, and it's proven to be true now in a couple of different markets all across the state of Florida and now on the island of Puerto Rico.
Yeah. Matthew says, good evening, fellas. I love the content. Have been on the fence about real estate since I was 18, almost 12 years. Love what you guys are doing with school. Hoping I can dive into it soon. Well, Matthew, we'd love to see you over there. We'll post a link. I don't know. I think it should be in the comments. It should be in the description here. But come on and join. The Flip Flop Flipper one is free. We'd love to see you there.
Yeah, please join the community, bring deals to the community, use the community for getting your questions answered. The way that community is set up, the free one, it's set up to do this question and answer session like every day of the week, right? So if you go in and you ask a question just like you're doing here, McKenna, Adon, and we're in there every day of the week trying to answer. And not just us, though. There are other experienced real estate investors. There are mortgage brokers. There's hard money lenders. There's contractors in there. So you can bring all of your real estate questions into that community and get them answered, via the chat. Obviously, the Apex is a step up, but for it, and you'll become aware of it. We do master classes inside of the Apex, and we have courses and things like that. But both of them are set up so that you use the community to further your investment career, to kind of kickstart it. Networking is one of the most powerful things you can do just starting out. Like you don't have to know a whole bunch of stuff. Just come, start asking questions, start telling people what it is that you want to do, ask them how it went for them. It's amazing that what you'll find. Just come and give it a shot. And it doesn't cost you anything to come to the free one, for sure.
If I was just starting out, like really knew nothing about real estate, I wasn't a real estate agent, anything like that, I would spend the first few hours of my day, 2 to 3 hours, telling people that I'm a real estate investor and reaching out to new people and telling them that and saying, hey, I'm a real estate investor in Orlando, Florida. My name's McKenna. And that's all I would do. I would send out that message to 200 people and just see what comes from that. There's going to be people that will offer to partner with you. There's going to be people with deals. There's going to be people that want to teach you something.
They've got money to lend. Who knows where it goes? Yeah.
Yeah. It's really important that you're not obscure. That's, I think, well, you said earlier, networking is huge. Sheldon, I'm a smart home integrator and looking to get into the flipping game. I hear guys like Pace Morby say that own a property with nothing down. Can something like that work in Puerto Rico?
Absolutely. People are doing it every day, Sheldon. You've even seen a couple of projects that we've done and that others have done on the island, but definitely if you have no money and you want to get into something where you get it 100% seller financed, is it harder? Of course, right? Like you're going to work much harder to find that kind of needle in a haystack, but it happens. It does, for sure. And being part of the community, talking to people about their deals, making offers on things, that is how you find that sort of, we call them deal of a lifetime. And remember, guys, the deal of a lifetime could be because you're buying it at a great price and you go out and you raise all the money and you don't have to put any money in it. Or it could be that you're not buying it at a great price, but the seller's giving you all of the money and the place doesn't need any work. I mean, so there's so many ways that real estate investing works and makes sense. And there are so many ways that you can do it where you don't have to have a ton of cash. I don't know of any other business that's as easy to leverage other people's money and buy into a proven asset that, generally speaking, goes up over time, and people build wealth and have forever through real estate investing. So
it'd be tough to buy stocks like this, that's for sure. Like, hey, I've got a great deal on GameStop. Oh, I'll just go buy it.
Yeah.
But yeah, if I had no money, I would partner with someone. That'd be the quickest way. I'd go and find a good deal that we're going to make a ton of money on, and then I'd partner with someone with money. I'm not going to put my own money in. I'm just going to put my time and effort. Rena, do you guys have done subject to in Puerto Rico?
We have. Yeah. We're the one. We've done a couple of sub 2 deals. Which one? Yeah, we've got one right now. Adon and I, he's saying you want to go into one. So we've got it's a seller finance deal, Santa Rita, with your mom. I did a sub 2 deal with Adon's mother when I first came to the island, and we lived in the house that Don grew up in, she had a mortgage on the property, and we came to an agreement with her and put together a lease option contract, gave her some cash, and started making the payments to the bank, and lived in the property. We renovated it, and eventually we sold it, and we made some money. I wish we hadn't sold it, but that was a true sub-2 deal. And we've done a few now seller finance deals. We were just talking about a sub-2 deal earlier in Guaynabo. So yes, absolutely, sub-2 deals. Not only do they happen on the island, but I'm seeing them happen more and more, because there are always going to be people who get themselves in trouble for whatever reason. And having just borrowed money a few years ago at really low rates, it makes a lot of sense to be investing that way. So guys, I think we got time for maybe one or two more questions, and then we'll wrap it up. What do we got, McKenna? We got another couple questions.
I think the hardest is for Michael. I think the hardest part of this business is finding the right contractor. If they are far off on estimates and or timetables, then it's a big loss. Well, Sheldon's in the chat, and he's a contractor you can talk to.
I would definitely. Sheldon knows how to do the management of the whole thing and can make your place a smart house. And you're right, though. The difference between the wholesale level of contracting and the retail level of contracting, it's miles and miles apart. So, and it is almost a full-time job for a real estate investor who's going to be doing the value add, to find those contractors who you can get a good price, have it done quickly, and get good work, right? Oftentimes they'll say, fast, cheap, and easy, pick two. But it's nevertheless, it's a full-time job to find a good contractor, and you need to stay on top of them. Otherwise, you'll get run over. And hey, we've been doing this a long time, and it's still a hard thing for us. We're constantly on the lookout for a good contractor who does a really nice, good work for a fair price. And if I just went out and hired the guy who's selling a new bathroom to, for instance, just my wife, she's going to go as just a lay person and pay 3 or 4 times more than I pay as a real estate investor. That's just the way it is. There's a massive difference between what you pay for contracting work on a investor level versus a retail level. So I hope that's helpful. But I'm affirming you. It's a big problem.
I see Michael's having an issue with the school link. We'll get a new one posted in there, Michael, to help you out. Noelle recently joined school. Looking forward to it. Awesome. Glad to see you there.
Welcome.
Hey, guys, if you're in the free school, too, and we haven't done an onboarding call, schedule a call with me. The link's right there on the front page. I'm sure I DM'd it to you as well when you joined. But I'd love to talk to you. I'd love to see what your goals are. I like talking to you one-on-one. I like getting to know everybody. So give me a call, set up the meeting, and we'll get on the phone. Rena, again, I want to thank you for the space and the opportunity to see you next Monday. Thanks, Rena. We'll see you there. Matthew, is it worth it to do it yourself? I assume he means renovations.
Yeah, I think he means renovations. So I think it's worth it if it's your first one and you're a very handy person. If you're going to do it at scale, I'd rather spend the time finding the next great deal and paying someone to do the heavy lifting on the renovations. That's me, right? I'm not a handy person, so I don't fix things. I can come in on demo day and break some stuff, but generally speaking, I'm not gonna be doing anything myself. So I advise people that, again, we do a high volume of real estate investing, and there's no way we could do it all ourselves.
Yeah. I think the question is too, like, if you're handy, you know that you can do all the work. How long is it going to take you to gut an entire house and redo everything? Probably 3 to 4 months if you're there diligently doing all of the work. That's going to save you 50 grand in labor from doing it yourself. But in that 3 months, would it have been possible to go and get 2 more flips, 3 more flips that you could be doing instead? So, and if the answer is no, then it is worth it to go and do it yourself and make that 50 grand. And absolutely, it's worth your time. And you just do 4 flips a year, and you have a great life. But if you can do 10 flips, 20 flips, my goal this year was to do 12, one a month. So it's definitely possible to up the numbers, and then you just need contractors at that point. Robert, the Flip Flop Flipper, says link in the chat.
Oh, link in the chat. Link in the chat for the school community. Yeah. All right, guys. I love it. This was really great. I hope we got to almost everybody's question. If not, come back next week. Bring your questions. Get them in early. Man, this goes so much better when you guys are doing this, asking a bunch of questions like you guys did today. I really enjoy this hour we get to spend together. I try and be. Is it over? I try and we're having some technical difficulties, it seems like, but I try and be I try and respect everybody's time, and we say we're going to go for about an hour, so we've gone for a little over an hour, and we'll see you next week. Thanks a lot. Don't forget to hit that like button on your way out, guys. It really helps us so that we can have this algorithm push this content out, and we'll see you next Monday. We'll do another one. God bless you guys. Thanks a lot.
Guys, I have a closing message as well. Hit the like button, please subscribe, but also go into the free school, make a post about something that you liked from today, let people know you were here, introduce yourself. We'd love for you guys to connect and network in there. And it also helps us to get, people posting and conversations going, and continue to ask questions in there. We really appreciate it. So if you could all go in there and make a post, we would love that. Also, if you want to be on the show next week, you need to get the most amount of points this week. You didn't need that many to win this week. I think you needed 20 points. So that means you needed a comment or a like or a post that got, 5 or 6 likes, and you get a ton of points that way. So go in there, compete if you want to come on the show. We'd love to have you. Thanks very much, guys. Bye.
All right, guys. God bless. Have a good week.